It was nearly midnight when Jennifer finally left work. Her eyes heavy with exhaustion, her brain fogged from 12 hours of fluorescent lights and customer complaints. She took the back roads home, as always. They were quieter, less traffic, and shaved 10 minutes off the drive. As she wound through the tree-lined stretch of Route 47, her headlights flicked against the skeletal branches that clawed toward the sky. The hum of the engine was the only sound, save for the occasional static burst from the radio. Then she saw it, just past mile marker 12. Something was standing on the other side of the road. At first, she thought it was a deer, tall, still, unmoving. But as she neared, her heart jolted. It wasn't an animal. It was a figure, human-shaped, and it was see-through, pale and flickering like fog in the shape of a person. She slowed the car instinctively, her foot hovering over the brake. The figure didn't move. It simply watched her, and it had no face. Just a smooth, blurred smear where eyes, nose, and mouth should be. She drove past it, barely breathing, pulse hammering in her throat. But in her rearview mirror, it was gone. Jennifer laughed nervously, shook her head. "I'm just tired," she whispered. Nothing was there. But as she turned down the last road toward home, her headlights caught a figure again. The same one, now standing on her side of the road. Closer. Facing her. She hit the gas, flying past it. But for a brief second as she passed, she saw something impossible. Her own face, reflected perfectly where the figure's face should be, staring back at her, expressionless. When Jennifer got home, she locked the doors, shut the blinds, and sat in the dark trying to calm herself. Her phone buzzed with a text from her best friend. "Hey, just checking. Didn't you say your shift ended early tonight?" Confused, Jennifer replied, "No, I got out late. Just walked in the door." 3 dots blinked. Then the reply came. "I just drove past your work. Your car is still parked outside." Jennifer's heart stopped. Slowly, she turned toward the hallway mirror and saw nothing staring back. Jennifer's hands trembled as she gripped her phone. She double-checked the text. It was still there. "Your car's still parked outside." She stood slowly, heart thudding in her chest, and walked to the front window. Her driveway was empty. No car, no sound. Just the faint whisper of wind brushing through the trees. She turned back toward the hallway and froze. At the far end, just outside her bedroom door, the figure stood, glassy, translucent, reflecting only her. But this time, it moved. It tilted its head, the way she always did when confused, raised its hand, her hand, and touched the wall gently. Where its fingers pressed, the paint darkened, curling outward like burnt paper. Jennifer stumbled backward, and then the thing spoke in her exact voice. "You already drove home, Jennifer. You just never made it inside." The lights flickered. Her phone dropped from her hand. The last thing she saw before the dark swallowed her was her own reflection, smiling from across the hall. Josh looked at his watch and sighed. 3 a.m. again. He sat up in bed, eyes burning from exhaustion, heart tight with frustration. Why can't I sleep anymore? Why? It had started 3 months ago. The insomnia, the night terrors, the sleep paralysis. All around the same time his grandmother died. The woman who had raised him, protected him, even when his own mother hadn't. Her loss left a gaping wound that nothing seemed to close. Since her passing, Josh would lie in bed, paralyzed and gasping, while shadowy figures leaned over him, whispering gibberish he couldn't understand. Now sleep was no longer a refuge. It was a battlefield. He got out of bed and trudged down the creaky stairs to get a glass of water. The house was silent, dark, too still. As he reached the kitchen and flipped the light switch, he froze. A shadow stood by the sink. Not just an odd reflection or a trick of the light. A person-shaped shadow, as dark and distinct as if someone were standing there with him. "Hello?" Josh asked, his voice tight. It felt stupid to speak, but silence somehow felt worse. The shadow turned slowly, unnaturally, until it was facing him. Josh's body went cold. He couldn't move. He couldn't breathe. The shadow's head hung to the side, neck tilted at a sickening angle, exactly how his grandmother's head had slumped in her hospice bed the night she died. Who are you? Josh asked, barely able to speak. The shadow took a step forward and vanished. The next morning, Josh didn't mention what happened to anyone. He kept it buried, like everything else. He had a new job to focus on, a third-shift factory position at Gorham Industrial. Not ideal, but he needed the money. The factory was ancient, noisy, and massive. Most of the machinery operated itself. Josh's only real job was monitoring a blinking control panel and pressing a green button every time it lit up. The first week passed uneventfully, though he couldn't shake the dread he felt walking into the building every night. The ceiling dripped. The lights buzzed. Everything about the place felt wrong. At 3:17 a.m. on his third night, the green button stopped blinking. A red button began to glow instead. No one had told him what it did. He hesitated, then pressed it. The air shifted. The factory grew silent. Machines halted for 1 second, maybe 2, then started up again like nothing happened. He asked a coworker about it the next night. The guy just gave him a blank stare. What red button? The next night, Josh drifted off during his lunch break and found himself once again trapped in a sleep paralysis nightmare. Only this time, he was in the factory, lying on the conveyor belt, unable to move as machines hissed and groaned above him. A shadow appeared at the end of the belt, the same one from his kitchen. Only now it had eyes, sunken, glowing, faintly blue, and it spoke. You didn't listen to her. Josh woke up gasping on the floor of the break room. When he got home that morning, he searched through his grandmother's old things. At the bottom of a dusty drawer, he found her journal. One entry was circled in red ink. The red hour comes at 3:17. If you see the shadow, don't speak to it. Don't follow it. And for God's sake, don't press the button. Josh's hands trembled. How could she have known? That night at the factory, 3:17 arrived. Josh didn't press the red button. The panel shrieked. Lights flickered. The humming stopped. From the far end of the factory, something began dragging itself toward him, limbs jerking unnaturally, head crooked. It wore his grandmother's nightgown, and it whispered in a distorted version of her voice, "You should have let me go." Josh screamed, and the machine started up again. The next morning, the supervisor found him huddled in the corner of the control room, whispering over and over, "Don't press the button. Don't press the button." Josh never returned to the factory after that night. He told the manager he quit, told his friends he was moving. He packed up his things and went to live in his grandmother's old farmhouse, far from town, thinking distance might save him. For a while it seemed to help. The sleep paralysis faded. The shadows stopped appearing. He even started sleeping through the night again. But one morning he woke up at 3:17 a.m. The clock was blinking. Red. Josh sat up slowly. His sheets were damp with sweat. The air in the room had that same hum, low and mechanical, that he thought he'd left behind at Gorham Industrial. And then he saw it. The control panel was sitting in the corner of his bedroom, identical to the one from the factory. Wires snaking into the floorboards, lights blinking, the green button flickering softly. "No," Josh whispered. "I'm done with this. You're not real." The panel blinked once more. Then the red button lit up. Josh backed away, heart hammering. His eyes drifted to the mirror beside the panel, and there, just behind him, was the shadow. Its head tilted. Its eyes now looked like his own. "You started the shift," it whispered. "You don't get to quit." The bedroom walls began to warp, metal bleeding through wood, the hum rising to a deafening roar. Josh screamed. They never found Josh. Just an empty house. No signs of struggle. No furniture. His disappearance remains an unsolved mystery, the case long gone cold, with no evidence, no witnesses, no trace. But some night shift workers at the factory still whisper that, every so often, a shadow can be seen standing at Josh's old control panel, just watching.